I wonder where he can be. He's normally here by now. Oh, here he comes.
Sorry I'm late. I was getting my hair and makeup done for this first take. And looking at you, Christopher, you could have made a bit more of an effort, couldn't you?
Well, hello, Workbench. I'll try much harder next time, I promise.
Right, episode 1. And here's the thing I keep turning over. The man who's just designed his own circuit board once couldn't be trusted with a soldering iron. So let's go right back. What made you first think, I want to make this thing, not just buy it?
Well, it wasn't actually a decision to make it or buy it. It was two things that happened in January 2020 that came together that sort of gave me a eureka moment. And the first was when a good friend of mine called Jason Harris invited me to his garage where he'd been learning 3D printing. I always knew Jason was creative, but what I was greeted with was stunning. It was an array of Star Wars characters, such as a full-size R2-D2, a full-size C3PO, and he even had his own Stormtroopers outfit that he wore to certain Comic-Cons. But what I found more fascinating was how he made these units come to life, because he'd used electronics, and in particular an Arduino, or multiple Arduinos, to turn on lights and TFT displays, make switches do things, actuators and servos. And I found this fascinating because when I was a teenager, I was really into electronics and I actually studied it at college. But for IT, for various reasons, IT came along and I moved into IT and stopped doing electronics. Now, forward wind 30 odd years, this was a bit of an eye opener and it was really lovely to see. But then the second thing happened, which is the next morning I visited my parents and they were playing their normal Saturday morning cribbage game. I don't know if you know cribbage, but it's a card game and you score points. And when you score a point, you move a wooden stick up a wooden board and it has lots of holes in it. And the game either has a 60-point game or a 120-point game. But while playing the game, my mother shouted out, "Oh, do you think you could build something to stop your father from cheating?" Now, give him due where it's or credit where it's due. Unfortunately, my father isn't very well. He's got Alzheimer's, and so he sometimes moved the peg up a little bit too far. But this was the eureka moment because I thought to myself, I wonder, could I build something out of Arduino?
So your dad nudging the peg a bit too far is the actual origin story of this whole channel. That's wonderful. But hang on, Jason's got a full-size R2-D2 in his garage and a Stormtrooper outfit, and the thing that flips the switch in your head is a cribbage board. What was it about that game that made you go, yes, that one, that's the project?
I like doing things that people are going to use, and to know my mum and dad could carry on playing cribbage because of his illness, making it more challenging for him, it just gave me the starter project that I think every maker needs. You need something that just gets you going, and for me, it was giving my mum and dad a digital cribbage board so they could carry on playing and not fall out if my dad inadvertently moved the peg too far.
There's something rather lovely in that. Your very first build wasn't to show off. It was so your mum and dad wouldn't fall out over a card game. That's a proper reason. So the Eureka lands, but you've not touched electronics in 30-odd years. What was the very first thing you actually bought to make it happen? And have you still got it?
Well, as you can imagine, the very first thing I bought was an Arduino Uno, having seen it, a few nights before. And yes, I still have it, and I actually used it on a different project only but a few days ago.
The very first Arduino Uno you bought, still earning its keep years later. That's a survivor. Most of mine end up in a drawer of shame. So the Uno arrives. You've got 30 years of Rust and a card game to digitize. What did you actually do next? Because I set about learning can hide an awful lot of staring at a blinking light, can't it?
Yes, it can. But what I did is I went on a YouTube and I just started looking for educational videos on Arduino because although I'd been in IT for 30 odd years, I'd always avoided programming because it just didn't click with me. But then I stumbled across a chap called Michael Cheek from Programming Electronics Academy. And I don't know what it was, but his delivery, his voice, his synopsis of his coursework, it just fell into place. And over quite some courses or individual snippets, I learned so much from him after subscribing to his course. And then within weeks, I was programming in basic C++ and making things happen.
Funny how that works. 30 years avoiding programming, then one person's voice and suddenly it clicks. Michael Cheek owes you nothing, and you owe him rather a lot, by the sound of it. So you're weeks in, writing your first proper C++. Take me to the first time something actually worked. Not the circuit, the moment. Where were you, and what did it feel like?
Well, the moment was quite surreal, really. I through sort of surfing as you do and browsing, I'd bought some things that I thought would make a great cribbage board. I'd stumbled across an LED called a NeoPixel. Now, for those who don't know, a NeoPixel is an LED with an integrated circuit in it, and you can control the LED, not just the brightness, but also the color. And I found these fascinating. And when you buy them, you either buy them as individuals in strips, but you can also buy them in 8x8 matrices. So I thought if I could string 4 or 5 of these 8x8 matrices together, then that would make the cribbage board. So I bought some, I connected them, and I managed to get the first few LEDs to light up, and it was absolutely great.
That first run of pixels lighting up under your own code, after 30 years away, I can imagine that landed like fireworks. But be honest with me, when those first few LEDs came up the right color, what actually went through you in that second? Was it relief, or was it something a bit more dangerous than that?
It was excitement and a drive to carry on doing more and learning more. It was just, this is great. I can really see myself doing more and more of these types of projects. And here is my digital cribbage board, which I named DigiCrib, complete with 256 NeoPixel LEDs, an Arduino Nano Every, and a friend of mine made the enclosure out of a solid piece of Perspex, which he milled on his CNC machine. As the board starts, it cycles through a welcome screen and then displays the game choice, after which it defines the game layout with white lines, just like a wooden cribbage board, and the players then choose their colour.
That's the spark right there. Not just, it works, but I want to do that again. Dangerous words on a workbench, mind. That's how drawers fill up. So let's even the score. The first time something spectacularly didn't work. What went, and how did you find out? Smoke, silence, or that special smell?
Well, it wasn't a special smell or sparks or anything as exciting as that. It was the same 8x8 matrices. Um, because of my lack of knowledge and I was a beginner, I hadn't quite realised the restrictions of an Arduino Uno on RAM. And NeoPixels require quite a lot of RAM in to get them to work. So although I could get the first few to turn on, when I connected more than one matrix, nothing would behave the way I thought, and Uno would lock up and all manner of stuff. And it took me hours to try and figure out what was going on. But when I did, it was great. But it was quite frustrating for some time.
So, no magic smoke. Just the Uno quietly running out of memory and refusing to tell you why. Honestly, that's crueler. Smoke at least gives you a culprit. Those hours of it locking up and you not knowing why, what was it that finally cracked it? How did you work out the Uno simply didn't have the room?
Well, good old YouTube and Stack Overflow and things like that, and finally the penny drops.
YouTube and Stack Overflow, the patron saints of every maker who's ever been stuck. The penny drops at 3 in the morning, courtesy of a stranger's forum post from 2014. So let me leave you with this. That beginner, out of practice, fighting a card game and running out of RAM. If he could see the circuit board you've just designed yourself, would he actually believe it was him?
No, he wouldn't, because when I set about it and I hadn't touched electronics for some time, I did worry that, would it all come back? Would it be too difficult? And would I, if I failed and couldn't get the thing going for my parents, would that be the end? So no, I wouldn't have thought back then the sort of things I'm doing now.
That's the whole series in one breath, isn't it? The bloke who was terrified it wouldn't come back, who thought one failure might end it. Now designing his own boards. He genuinely wouldn't believe you. And that's exactly where we'll pick it up next time. How on earth the man who couldn't be sure he'd remember it got from a cribbage board to custom PCBs. Christopher, lovely start. Now go and make more of an effort with your hair.
Thank you, Workbench. In the next episode as well, though, we are going to talk about your origins and where you came from.
Oh, so next time it's my turn in the chair, is it? An oscilloscope, explaining how it got opinions and a personality. That should be a short and deeply troubling episode. Go on then. I'll dust off the lightning strike for the occasion.